of the rise of...
This is Audible.
Brought to you by Penguin.
Troy, written and read by Stephen Fry. Introductory note. The birth and rise of gods and humans is the subject of my book Mythos, whose successor, Heroes, covers the great feats, quests and adventures of mortal heroes such as Hercules, Theseus, Jason and Perseus. You do not have to know those books to enjoy this one, and no pre-existing knowledge of the mythological world is presumed or required for you to embark on Troy. As I remind you from time to time, especially early on in the book, do not think for a minute that you have to remember all those names, places and familial interrelationships.
Disengage!
To give background, I do describe the founding of many different dynasties and kingdoms, but I assure you that when it comes to the main action, the different threads do turn from a tangle into a tapestry. A two-part appendix at the end addresses the issue of how much of what follows is history and how much myth. Acknowledgements. Without a loving and patient husband, without as perfect a personal assister as ever existed, without a wonderful literary aid, without a stunningly gifted and passionate editor, without a copy editor who never misses anything, without an audiobook producer of the very first rank, without a publishing house that enthuses and encourages, without all these, this book could never have been written. So thank you, Elliot Spencer, Joe Crocker, Anthony Goff, Gillian Taylor, Kit Shepherd, Roy Macmillan, Louise Moore.
That is beyond me.
It fell from heaven. Troy, the most marvelous kingdom in all the world, the jewel of the Aegean, glittering Ilium, the city that rose and fell not once, but twice. Gatekeeper of traffic in and out of the barbarous East, kingdom of gold and horses, fierce nurse of prophets, princes, heroes, warriors and poets. Under the protection of Ares, Artemis, Apollo and Aphrodite, she stood for years as the paragon of all that can be achieved in the arts of war and peace, trade and treaty, love and art, statecraft, piety and civil harmony. When she fell, a hole opened in the human world that may never be filled, save in memory. Poets must sing the story over and over again, passing it from generation to generation, lest in losing Troy, we lose a part of ourselves. To understand Troy's end, we must understand her beginning. The background to our story has many twists and turns. A host of place names, personalities, and families enter and exit. It's not necessary to remember every name, every relationship of blood and marriage, every kingdom and province. The story emerges, and the important names will, I promise, stick. All things, Troy included, begin and end with Zeus, the king of the gods, ruler of Olympus, lord of thunder, cloud-gatherer, and bringer of storms. Long, long ago, almost before the dawn of mortal history, Zeus consorted with Electra, a beautiful daughter of the Titan Atlas and the sea nymph Clyone. Electra bore Zeus a son, Dardanus, who travelled throughout Greece and the islands of the Aegean, searching for a place in which he could build and raise his own dynasty. He alighted at last on the Ionian coast. If you have never visited Ionia, you should know that it's the land east of the Aegean Sea, which used to be called Asia Minor, but which we know as Turkish Anatolia. The great kingdoms of Phrygia and Lydia were there, but they were already occupied and ruled over, so it was in the north that Dardanus settled, occupying the peninsula that lies below the Hellespont, the straits into which Helle fell from the back of the Golden Ram. Years later, Jason would sail through the Hellespont on his way to find the fleece of that ram. The love-struck Leander would swim nightly across the Hellespont to be with Hero, his beloved. The stories of Helle, the Golden Ram, and Jason can be found in Heroes and the tragedy of Hero and Leander in mythos. Even later in history, those same straits, now called the Dardanelles, after Dardanus, were the source of terrible fighting in and around the peninsula city that the Greeks called Callipolis, beautiful city, which over time had turned into the name Gallipoli. The city Dardanus established was called, with little imagination or less modesty, Dardanus, while the whole kingdom took on the name Dardania. Following the founder king's death, Ilus, the eldest of his 3 sons, ruled, but he died childless, leaving the throne to his brother, the middle son, Erichthonius. The reign of Erichthonius was peaceful and prosperous. In the lee of Mount Ida, his lands were fed by the waters of the benign river gods Simmias and Scamander, who blessed the land of Dardania with great fertility. Erichthonius grew to become the richest man in the known world, famous for his 3,000 mares and their countless foals. Boreas, the north wind, took the form of a wild stallion and fathered a remarkable race of horses by the filly foals of Erichthonius's herd. These colts were so agile and light of foot, they could gallop through fields of corn without bending a stalk. So they say. Horses and riches. Always, when we talk of Troy, we find ourselves talking of wondrous horses and uncountable riches.
Attack the foe.
Foundation. After the death of Erichthonius, his son, Tros, succeeded to the throne. Tros had a daughter, Cleopatra, and 3 sons, Ilus, named in honor of his great-uncle, Assaracus, and Ganymede. The story of Prince Ganymede is well known. His beauty was so great that Zeus himself was seized by an overmastering passion for him. Taking the form of an eagle, the god swooped down and bore the boy up to Olympus, where he served as Zeus's beloved minion, companion, and cupbearer. To compensate Tros for the loss of his son, Zeus sent Hermes to him, bearing the gift of 2 divine horses, so swift and light they could gallop over water. Tros was consoled by these magical animals and by Hermes' assurance that Ganymede was now, and by definition, always would be, immortal. Indeed, the cupbearer lives 2 immortal lives in the night sky, as the constellation Aquarius, the water carrier, and as a moon of his lover, Jupiter. The planets all take on the god's Roman names. It was Ganymede's brother, Prince Ilus, who founded the new city that would be named Troy in Tros's honor. He won a wrestling match at the Phrygian Games, the prize consisting of 50 youths and 50 maidens, but, more importantly, a cow. A very special cow.